Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sands of Time podcast. I am your host, Tariq Ibrahim, and I am with the co-host, Majid Muniruddin. And, you know, there is a saying in life that's very important, is that how many people have to die, right? This is a thing that people always wonder, how many people have to die? Like, how many people have to die? And the subject we're going to talk to today, it's all about how many people had to die, right? And it's a very unique way to put it. And that's why we started with it, because I wanted to grab all your attention. So sorry if I did that. But during the reign of the Turkish Empire, is that what it's called? Ottoman Empire? During the reign of the Ottoman Empire, there was a thing called, you know what? Hold on. Why should I even try and explain this to you when I have our historian at large here, Munjir here, to explain it for us? So I did a quick little intro here for you, because I constantly get into arguments with my wife on this subject, where I said, kill them all, it was needed. And she's like, how could you say it? It's so insensitive. There's so many other options that could have happened. And the question is there so many other options that should have happened?
So there's a lot of irony in that question. And I would say because the entire policy, and you're referring to the Ottoman practice of fratricide, where
Correct.
every sultan during a certain era would eliminate all of his brothers, i.e. the heirs to the throne, upon ascension to the sultanate or the khilafah. The irony is this ruling and this practice was actually taken out to save lives, not to lead to more bloodshed. And that is really the central point that people don't realize about the Ottoman practice of fratricide. And how we got onto this topic in terms of thinking about whether we should air it as a discussion was a lot of people were asking us, were the Ottomans good or bad? And we had a whole episode on that. And we talked about this golden era of a amazing run of about 267 years of competent to very good to exceptional historic monarchs, the likes of which run the world has never really seen. You might have dynasties that have 75 years of good kings without a single mad king. The Ottomans had it for 267 years.
And that never existed.
The practice of fratricide, I've never come across a run like that. I don't think it exists. I'm pretty confident. The Ottoman practice of fratricide was ironically a big part of that. So to answer the question, were the Ottomans good? And as a corollary to that question, was the practice of fratricide okay or not? You really have to reframe the question and say, well, from what perspective?
Okay.
From a pure classical fiqh perspective, is killing people ever okay? No, in absolute terms, almost never okay.
Sure.
Right? We saw Imam Zayd the other day put out a really great piece on Charlie Kirk being killed, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
And he said, look, a lot of people might disagree with what he stood for and what he said about Muslims, but we absolutely disagree with violence as a means to resolve people's opinions and disagreements. That is always going to be un-Islamic, right? So the difference here when it comes to the Ottoman practice of fratricide is we have to understand that fiqh historically has many layers, but a lot of times our jurisprudence or fiqh factors in a lot of pragmatic considerations. It looks into what is the best on the balance for everybody. If a few people have to die that are playing a certain Game of Thrones so that everybody else can live, does that make it okay? Does that mean that more people do not have to die? More average common people don't have to die if a bunch of royals have to die? These are all considerations. To really understand the context, I think we have to get a bit into the Ottoman history and where this practice actually came from. So it all starts in modern-day Ankara in 1402.
Okay.
In fact, it was called Ankara back then, the Battle of Ankara. So you've got two of the greatest generals of the 14th century / 15th century, Taimur Lung, as he's known in Urdu, Tamerlane. Taimur is a menace coming from Central Asia, and he is an unstoppable force. And he feels insulted by the Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I, who ruled from 1389 to 1402. And the irony in all this, I'm going to take you even a step further back, is the Ottoman practice of fratricide unofficially began with Bayezid, right? Although it wasn't his intention to start a practice, he was more real politicking it. But his story kicked off a chain of events that mandated it as a policy. So in 1389, ironically, Bayezid, his father Murad, is killed at the Battle of Kosovo. Although he's victorious, reports have it that he is killed by a spy pretending to be a convert. Murad is overcome by an enemy coming over and accepting Islam. He goes to hug him, and the guy kills him in the battlefield. For Rahimahullah, yeah, may God reward him. Murad dies. The Ottomans are never the same. You can never get that close to a sultan ever again.
that was a rule in time after that.
Yeah. Like the sultan ain't hugging nobody anymore. We don't care if he becomes Muslim.
You're on your own, man.
It's a great body. We don't care anymore. So Murad dies immediately at the Battle of Kosovo. Bayezid quickly co-lines a bunch of the nobles. He takes power, and he has some commandos strangulate his brother, who is the other heir to the throne, so that it's only him. Because he knows that the Ottomans always have this issue where their elite corps in the army is a group called the Janissaries, the Yenichides. The Janissaries are generally these conscripted slaves from Europe who are converted to Islam as a condition of becoming Janissaries. And in many ways, becoming a Janissary is a great honor, because you might be a serf or a peasant in Europe, and now you're becoming the Sultan's own special army, and there's elite status, you get land. So a lot of families are signing their kids up for this.
Oh, okay.
So I know people like to depict it a certain way. I'm not trying to apologize for the dark side of the medieval period, but there is nuance to it, and there is, in some cases, willing participants who are actually okay with being upgraded. So the Janissaries over time become very powerful. They end up becoming power brokers, where if you have two sultans, or if you have two rivals to the throne, the Janissaries extract their pound of flesh by going to one person and saying, if you don't do our bidding, we're just going to go back to your brother.
Oh, is that right?
It creates this constant tension among the Ottomans.
Wow.
In terms of the succession of power.
So they became very powerful then.
They became very powerful. They became kingmakers.
They became kingmakers.
They became a fitna at the end of the day. So Bayezid has the foresight in an evil way, because he doesn't do it in the prescribed way that it becomes later on, where you have fatwas. He's simply acting out of his own political ambition, and he's known in Turkish as Yildirim, the lightning bolt. He does everything super fast.
Yildirim.
So before anybody even knows what's happening, his brother is 6 feet under.
Wow.
Strangulated, he's done. He consolidates the throne. Bayezid has a pretty good reign. He's a very enigmatic figure. He's both a sot and a drunkard, and he's a big-time Sufi who's big in poetry, praying. He spends time with the ulama. It's the most bizarre story that you can imagine. But
this is Bayezid.
On Instagram and TikTok nowadays, I think we see similarly.
Oh, yeah. This is 99% of the people on there.
Bayezid would fit right into 2025 TikTok. That's for sure.
He'd have a great profile.
Yeah. So Bayezid in 1402, he's been assaulting Timur. Timur marches on him from Central Asia. There's a epic battle at the Battle of Ankara.
Timur is Muslim?
Allegedly. Okay, allegedly. But he does a lot of things that I don't want to count him as one of mine.
Sure.
He kills people. He rounds up Christians, puts them in churches, and he puts the churches on fire.
Oh, wow.
He strikes deals with people that, hey, if you let me into your town without a fight, I will not spill any blood. And then he buries them alive, saying like, hey, technically I didn't spill any blood. Like, I got no time for people like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of this that are named Timur. And
after him?
After, of course. This is.
Oh, really? This is the Timur.
By the way, he's a descendant of Genghis Khan. Right. So it's all, the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Amazing. Really?
But true to Mongol form, this man is a badass warrior, phenomenal general.
Was he responsible for that area at the time? Is that what it is? He's responsible for He's
becoming more powerful. The Timur dynasty was his founding, and he was walking in on the Ottoman Empire and knocking off the great Sultan of the Ottomans, Bayezid, in 1402. Hard-fought battle. Ultimately, it comes down to they're going both blow for blow, and then Timur brings out the elephants. And like we always say, our brothers are never good when it comes to elephants. It's always a bad day when you pull out the...
When you pull out the elephant. That's like a big gun.
He's on the other side. It's not a good day for our guys.
Oh my.
Starting with the Sahabis, it's never a good day. So Bayezid gets knocked out. To his infinite credit, although I'm not a fan of neither his nor Timur's, he stays to the end fighting to get his sons to break away from the battlefield. So he fights valiantly. He's probably hoping that he falls on the battlefield because it's really ignominious and embarrassing for a sultan to be captured.
Sure.
But Timur's men capture him and his wife, Olivia Despina, and it's very embarrassing. But he buys enough time for his brother-in-law, who's Slavic, Olivia's brother, and he's like, bro, let's get out of here. This is not looking good. The elephants are running a number on us. Let's just get out of here, fight another day.
Yeah.
If you're the Ottoman Sultan, you'll be fine. And he goes, no, I need to buy some time for my kids to escape. No matter what happens, I don't know how this is going to go down. So his son, Mehmed I, escapes. A bunch of the other princes escape, and he's captured, and he dies of depression, being insulted and desecrated. You can say, well, he's not a religious figure, but he is obviously abused by Timur, who obviously can never get to the end of fun. When he situation, Timur embarrasses him, insults him by most accounts. I know some people try and push back and say, no, Timur was very gracious. I'm thinking, what in Timur's profile do we know where he would be gracious?
Amazing.
This is the victory that he's going to gloat all day to celebrate.
Right. Yeah, this is it. Absolutely.
Because they had a really juvenile exchange before that, so Timur probably was really PO'd by it.
And was Timur at the time trying to take over the Sultanate? Like, he's like, this is going to be my thing now?
Yeah.
That was the idea.
He's a typical king, aggressive, bully warrior who's very good at what he does.
Gotcha.
He's very difficult to stop. I don't know that he had many battles.
So so what, to put it out, because this is actually something,
a sidebar here.
Yeah, but this is something I never knew.
Yeah.
So there was a moment in time where South Asia and the Turkish or the Ottoman Empire, Central Asia, So the leadership of the Muslims, if you will, could have went either way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of that in history. We tend to look at the most powerful as the Khalif and the one who had
always been that way.
Consensus, but it's usually fractionalized. It might be the Abbasids who were the technical Khalif, but they've got a bunch of vassal lords who are paying tribute to that. Even Salahuddin technically ruled as Sultan under the Abbasids.
Yeah, right.
Part of that was his own self-deflection. He didn't want to be the center and call himself the Khalif, but he did like to borrow on the legitimacy of the Khalif, so he'd call himself the Nasr Amir al-Mu'minin, the helper or the victor of the Khalif and things like that. But very seldom until the Ottomans later on did you have much of the Ummah unified under one banner. That's one of the great things the Ottomans brought the Ummah. Before that, it was pretty fractionalized.
Really?
Oh, the early Abbasids had that, then they got weak and they fractionalized. The Umayyads had that, but they didn't last very long. The Rashidun had that, but that was 30 years of glory. So this is not something that is constant throughout history. We didn't have that level of stability and solidarity. That's one of the truly unique things that the Ottomans brought. But in this moment, in 1402, to bring it back, to not get too much into a sidebar, Bayezid loses. It triggers a 13-year interregnum. I think it was 12, 13 years, or maybe 11 years by some calculations. But it's about a decade of change of constant civil war. Bayezid dies. None of his sons come to help him.
Oh,
they start duking out among themselves to see who's going to be the next Ottoman Sultan. There's a bunch of, we talked about this in one of the other podcasts.
So they actually start fighting each other.
Mustafa Chalebi, there's so many different.
But what happens to Timur?
Timur over time, I mean, I'm not going to get too much into Timur, the history.
Yeah.
But he dies and his empire doesn't last very long.
Oh, is that right?
Because guys that are co-aligning at the edge of a sword, just like Hitler, it's not going to last long.
I see.
Right? It's just not something the likes of which Cyrus the Great built based on diplomacy and genius and strategic brilliance. It doesn't last like that. It's just, hey, come join me, or I punch you in the face, or I slit your family's throat. It's just all that kind of stuff, right? And they're not going to last long. So he dies. So
he dies. No one cares. It's over.
Footnote in history.
Footnote in history.
I'm sure you're Mongolian. They're probably like,
Yeah.
we're going to get a bunch of angry comments tomorrow. But I'm okay with that.
I'm sure, guys. Like,
and there's a bunch of Desis that are going to be like, Mujia, that is my name. How can you say it? I'm sorry. This is not a slight against you. But it is me just calling it like it is.
Sure.
In front of Timur. Now, in fairness to Timur, if he was sitting here, I probably would be a bit more diplomatic.
Yeah.
He was quite the badass, but he's not my favorite guy in history, and he doesn't represent the ideals of a Muslim ruler.
Gotcha.
That I like to see. But then again, who am I? I'm just a historic commentator.
So all this drama, and then again, he just fades to black. Like nothing special.
And so you got this 11, 12, 13-year interregnum. All these princes of the Ottomans are fighting over who gets to be the next sultan. And the carnage that results is catastrophic. There are reports that one prince will take over a city, burn it to the ground so it can't be used against him. Then he loses the city to a brother. Brother comes in and burns it down again. And you have the ultimate destruction of the Ummah. It is
by themselves.
Wow. Basically, it's a bunch of Ottoman princes destroying the world to figure out who gets to have the honor of being the Khalif or the Sultan that's supposed to bring stability to the rest of us.
Yeah, right.
So ultimately, Mehmed I wins out. He's considered to be the second founder of the Ottoman Empire. He's not able to accomplish much, but just re-solidifying the empire is a big contribution to history. He's very capable, good general, and he wins out. His son is Murad II, named after the late Amir Murad, who was killed at the Battle of Kosovo. Murad starts administrating. He's a great Ghazi. He does a lot of great things. Maybe Murad's greatest contribution is that his consort pops out the great Muhammad al-Fatih, Mehmed the Great II.
Oh, that's his
son.
That's his son.
So Mehmed the Great is a genius tactician, one of the greatest generals that we've ever seen, certainly in our Ummah, but I say in world history, just brilliant if you study his tactics and his feel for the game. He is an expert administrator. He introduces a lot of new controls and reforms to the Ottomans' system of governance that makes them into a legitimate empire. They're not just a bunch of warlords or glorified warlords anymore. He professionalizes the Ummah. The man speaks 5 languages. He's a philosopher king. He writes poetry. It's just like this guy he's just that dude.
Wow.
Mehmed the Great. Okay. And I want to take this a step further by bringing the hadith into it. There's one of my favorite hadith that I put a lot of stock into, where Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, لَتُفْتَحَنَّ قِسْطَنْطِنِيَّةً وَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ أَمِيرِهَا وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشُ. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him, says Constantinople will certainly be conquered and liberated. What an amazing leader that leader will be. What an amazing army that army will be. So in effect, the Prophet ﷺ is endorsing the man that will ultimately fulfill the prophecy.
Absolutely.
So when Muhammad is the fulfiller of that prophecy, we have to look at him as almost a Sahabi or a person who has the endorsement of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So what he does, the fatwas that he pioneers, I look at them differently theologically and jurisprudentially than I do Suleiman the Magnificent. I put them under a different microscope.
Yeah.
They're a regular dude. This is actually a prophesized dude. He's cut from a different cloth. Like, I'm going to give him a bit more deference because you don't get the endorsement of the great Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like, it's got to be a special man.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So Muhammad.
So he was prophesized then.
Absolutely.
Him and his army.
That's right.
That's a big stuff.
Every last member of that army is
special.
So, and by the way, this prophecy for about 800 years after Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gives it, every single army is trying to fulfill.
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
It's the man that does it.
This is your dream. You go to see, like, you know what? I'm going to Constantinople. I'm taking it over. That's my thing. And then
so the Prophet 632, he passes away.
Yeah.
This happens in 1453.
Oh wow.
Long
time.
I'm sure in 1150 or 1230, people are like, when's this going to happen? Right?
Absolutely.
But it took the right person, the right genius, the right special dude to come along that does it. And we'll spend an episode, to the extent that we haven't already, talking about the genius of Muhammad and how he conquers Constantinople, how he went against the political will and grain of everybody in his midst, all his viziers who thought it was a horrible idea. In many ways, it's a great blueprint for entrepreneurs. If you think you have a great idea and you believe in it, if it's a good enough idea, most people might think you're an idiot. That's
the sign of a good idea.
Yeah, in some cases, right? So he pulled it off, but importantly, he is a student of history, being the brilliant man and knowledgeable man that he is. So he studies what his Dada, Mehmed I, went through in that civil war. And he goes, why is it that we had to kill every single civilian so we Ottomans could figure out who gets to rule? Rulership is actually an obligation. It's a social contract. You're bringing stability and you're bringing implementation of the law in exchange for the right to rule.
Right.
This is not a privilege where everybody gets to die so you figure out who gets to be the king. This is a fitna. It's a travesty for the ummah. So he goes, we need to figure out a way to never let that happen. And if it means some of us Ottomans have to die, well, so be it, because I'd rather the ummah not die and us die.
Oh, I see. That was
something from a man who has the endorsement of the Prophet ﷺ. You look at that and you give it a bit more deference. Obviously, it has to pass the eyeball test, but he's going through it in a very methodical process. He's consulting ulama. He's getting fatwas on this. And that becomes the official practice of fratricide. So it's pioneered by Mehmed the Great. It's not pioneered by some schmuck. So when Bayezid does it, I think the accountability is different because God's going to look at him and say, that was just lust for power.
Yeah, sure.
But when Mehmed,
he put due diligence into it.
He puts a process into it. He gets ulama by, and he has principles, maqasid. There's consideration. It's for the betterment of the ummah. It's a different analysis than when Bayezid does it in 1389.
But why is it, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, okay? Why is it that was so no matter what scenario would happen, brothers would always want to be the Sultan? Is that it's just human nature? I want it. I'm not going to give it to you, or I'm not going to wait for why don't they do it like the way the kings are now? Okay, you're first. When you die, then you get it. And then when you die, you get it. What was it? Why was it so different in that scenario?
They tried to do that. But because they had this sui generis entity, that is the Janissaries, so powerful and so wielding of this incredible power-broking ability, it just corrupted things. It just gave
human nature,
right?
Human nature.
They were just good at whispering, hey, is Murad really, how close are you guys? Didn't they kick you in the shin playing soccer last weekend?
Do you really need to do that?
You know what? Why don't you just knock him off and then you can cry over it next week? Right? It's
sure.
But you'll be crying as the Khalif, as the Sultan.
Yeah,
that's not so bad. Is
it's much better ears,
right? Yeah,
better quality.
Yeah, right. It's all that.
Wow.
So they did try having primogeniture and all that. It just didn't work given their structure. So Mehmed took a real look at it and he goes, it's never going to be smooth.
And the Janissaries, they always had to keep it. They were never willing to scrap that system.
No, because they, as former slaves, became extremely powerful. Now they are a class unto themselves. They are powerful bona fide organ within society, within the apparatus of state.
Oh, I see. So you can't get rid of it. You can't undo it.
They're loving that. Imagine going to Congress and saying, all the authority you have to check the president?
Yeah.
Why don't you just take a discount on 75% of that? Congress would never do that.
Never. They'd never give it up.
So these guys are one organ within the state that plays a very important role.
Interesting.
That's the Janissaries. But they're also very good. They are the talk of Europe for about 200 years.
Oh, on top of that.
When you've got the Sultan, the right Sultan that can co-align their allegiance, that can marshal them in their power, Suleiman the Magnificent. There's reports that when he would come into the courtyard and sit there, you'd have the Janissaries beautifully just lined up, not saying a word until he sat down. It was like harmony. So when you have that level of loyalty and enemies, European visitors would come report this when we visited the Magnificent's court. It was deathly scary, the power that he has.
Really?
That's why he was called the Magnificent. He was just that dude. When you can get the Janissaries in line, there's no stopping you, right? So Mehmed the Great had that. Suleiman the Magnificent, Al-Qanuni, as we call him in Islamic tradition, the lawmaker, he had that. But not every sultan had that. So they had this practice this practice of fratricide.
And Janissaries ultimately were just his own private guards, in essence, right? That's what it is.
But his special forces in war.
Oh, I see.
Battle. So they're always with him in battle. They're always defending him. They're always his trusted slaves.
I see.
Right? But over time, they became very powerful. They became power brokers. They were not eliminated until the 19th century.
Oh, wow. The 19th century.
One of the sultans tried this Nizam-e-Jadid, this new order. He came up with a new corps, and the Janissaries were onto him, and they killed him. And so his successor had to. It's a very dirty history.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But they stayed the whole time. So the Janissaries stayed. Once that was
are a staple. The Janissaries are as Ottoman as
the Ottoman.
Apple pie is American. They are as indigenous a piece of Ottomania as anybody else.
Now, does any other group have a similar structure in today's modern setup? Is there something similar to that?
The Romans had the Praetorian Guard. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some parallels. Every king or every ruler has special forces, special ops. It's very analogous to that. It's just these people became extremely powerful. In many ways, I don't want to get too far down this route.
Sure.
But the Mamluks hailed from that similar heritage under the Abbasis. They were a class of slaves that became specialized warriors. They were Turkic warriors that rose up the ranks under the Abbasids and then later became the Khalifs of the Ummah. And in fact, the Battle of Ain Jalut, one of the great duos in Islamic history, Melik Qutuz, Sultan, and Baybars, one of the great generals in our history, saved the Ummah from the Mongols destroying us once and for all in 1260. This was a slave dynasty that was founded. So there are parallels that are very unique to Islamic history of slaves rising up the ranks, right? Because we didn't believe that just because you were a slave, you had no rights. There's an entire set of fiqh around what you can do with slaves, how you treat them, how you don't. There's a different protocol that goes with that. So that created a very unique set of instances in our history where slaves rose up the rank and played very, very important pivotal roles in many different societies.
Wow.
So back to fratricide.
Yep.
That was a big part of that Ottoman run of excellence because it is outlawed by Sultan Ahmed, who is pretty famous. He is the builder of the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. And his story is when he takes over in 1603, his father Mehmet, in one night, knocks off 17 of Sultan Ahmed's ammus. 17 of his chachas in one night just ceased to exist.
Oh.
One day he's playing soccer or cricket or whatever that it is that they played with his chachas in the courtyard. The next day, he's got no one to play with.
No.
He killed and traumatized, and every one of his ammus is gone. He's like, we're never doing this again. So when he takes over, he goes, I'm not going to kill any of my brothers. I'm simply going to relegate them to a lifetime of debauchery while I am the Sultan, while I am the Khalif. So they're going to live in the harem. They're going to have whatever pleasure and hedonistic desire that they want, but they will never play in the halls of power with me until I'm dead. The reason why this is so critical is the Ottoman practice of fratricide also goes with every sultan takes his sons and he has them all vie as a governor. He'll give them a governorship. He'll give them generalship of an army, and they have to prove themselves. Okay? So by the time they become sultan, in many ways it's an election because they have proven themselves in battle or they've proven themselves as a governor. They have ulama behind them. They have the janissaries behind them. People believe in them. The local population holds them in high favor, so they've got popular support. So in many ways, it's social Darwinism or military Darwinism. You get the most fit person to rule out of that. And so all the other people that didn't win out, that aren't as worthy as that sultan that took over, are wiped out. So it creates very good outcomes for the Ottomans, notwithstanding that it is murder.
Yeah, but there's not a competition. Like, you actually have to be a good leader. So, like, there's a skill required.
Exactly. So the Hanafi ulama actually have an arm of the fiqh, ahkam al-bugha or ahkam al-qital al-siyasi. They actually look at certain deaths that occur within, we call it the Game of Thrones, within the zone of politics, where if a sultan is not happy with his vizier, and that vizier voluntarily chose to take that risk and become the vizier, and he's executed by the sultan, that's not looked upon by the ulama the same as if the sultan killed an average person and oppressed the everyday people. That is against the fiqh. But here they're saying that's the risk that you take, and we got to give the sultan some latitude to align his affairs within the court. So if he thinks that his sultan has betrayed him, his vizier,
yeah, sure,
that's what the vizier signed up for. That's the risk that he took, and we're going to defer to him on that as long as it doesn't spill over into the everyday,
into the masses.
right? So
really,
so that is the entire jurisprudential basis of the Ottoman practice of fratricide. It's qital al-siyasi. It's seen as a special class of people in the Game of Thrones that is fair game because it eliminates the larger fitna of everyday people in cities having to suffer while the Ottomans figure out who gets the privilege.
And during that time when they were doing, there wasn't any rebellions amongst brothers or siblings or anything like that.
No, you can't say there was never. Of course there is, but it's a lot more stable. And again, let's not miss the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
You have that 267-year period that is exceptional in history of competent to exceptional sultans, one after the other, 10 straight. You got Usman Ghazi, Orhan Ghazi, you've got Murad, you've got Murad's son Bayezid, then you've got Mehmed I, you've got Murad II, you've got Mehmed the Great, you've got Bayezid II, you've got Salim the Grim, who was known to execute all his viziers, and the ulama looked the other way because he actually was the one that conquered the Hijaz and unified the entire ummah, essentially.
Oh, it took that long.
He expanded the Ottoman Empire by about 60-70% for his 8 years that he ruled. And then his son was Suleiman the Magnificent. So you've got this exceptional run of exceptional, good, competent to exceptional guys. Mehmed the Great, Suleiman the Magnificent. This is the high water mark of kingship in Islamic history, modern Islamic history.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Somewhere like this.
After that, after Sultan Ahmed outlaws the practice of fratricide, there is never anybody, I would say, arguably of the caliber of those first.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
It's an instant dip.
I mean, I don't know if it's instant, but
it's not evident.
You never have, the very few sultans reach that level.
No kidding.
They're not consistent. Yeah. Because you have guys now that have been in the harem for 30 years doing nothing but fun things, and now you're like, congratulations, you are the sultan. There's guys, Ibrahim the Mad, there is Murad IV, who is a great general, but he's a madman. You have some legitimate crazy dudes that are given keys to the Ferrari now.
Wow, really?
It's not a good outcome. These are not people that have proven their worth in battle and with the ulama and sitting with the viziers and with the janissaries. They don't have that legitimacy. They don't have that gravitas. They haven't proven themselves. They're literally guys that have been drinking and sleeping around all day.
And they never decide to change that system to keep them in there. They're like, hey, you know what?
I mean, listen, they got a good education. It wasn't always that hedonistic, but it's not the same as you were a governor, you were the minister.
Yeah, they were never given political power.
According to the Sultan Ahmed model, no. I'm sure there were some exceptions to that rule, but generally the culture was not what it was before, where Murad is sending his son to be a governor somewhere. Mehmed is sending his son to be a governor. So when you've been a governor for 10 years and you've been a general for 15 years, you become the Sultan. You
have experience. Yeah.
And you know what works.
Oh my God.
Right? So that's fratricide. So if you ask me, was it good or bad? You never want to say that somebody being killed is good. So I'm not going to say it's good, but it was a mechanism the Ottomans came up with in a prescribed, methodical manner, working with the ulama, a framework that worked very well for them when it did. And it was pioneered by a man that we have to look at with a little more deference than just your average Joe Murad Sultan.
So it really all comes together on this one. This isn't just an isolated, let's look at it. Like this requires the whole.
It's not this barbaric.
Yeah.
People think that is what Murad did. Like, oh, some dude would just take
that. That's exactly what they think.
That's what they think. That's not what it was. So after Mehmed the Great, that's not what it was.
Wow. Amazing.
So that's the Ottoman dynasty or the fratricide in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's amazing. So guys, we leave it up to you. Of course, this is your chance now to get into the comment section and say, hey, did we convince you that this was a good thing, or are you convinced still this is a bad thing? But what we would love to see is your feedback in the comment section, where you could actually say, Majir, what is that? What are you talking about? Or Tariq, you know what? You need to do, this is your chance. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe. We have more episodes coming out over and over and over. So we have tons of stuff for you to enjoy. So don't fall asleep. Don't get nervous. Continue to watch. And we'll see you again on the next episode of The Sands of Time.